Well, thank you for having me. I'm very pleased to be here. I'm very much enthusiastic about the legal profession. You might find that a little odd, but I have been working with lawyers for over 2 decades. And I'm very passionate about what technology can do for lawyers and for business in general. And so everything, or maybe not everything that Matt has said is true, but for me, I'm really passionate about what digital literacy can do in empowering lawyers. And so first off, just wanted to get to know everyone here. You have like mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles in the room. Okay, so any young kids still at home? Yeah, some. Okay, great. When I was, my kids are all grown, married, and in university. So when they were younger, my oldest boy really struggled with reading. And we decided that we wanted to put him into Sylvan Learning. I don't know if you guys have heard of Sylvan Learning. And it was a game changer for him. You know, at first he was very frustrated, upset. He felt very isolated. He felt stupid at school. When he had to read in class, it was very, very difficult for him. He just shied away. And we really started to see this change in him that was very frightening for us. And because of that, we wanted to do so. We had to have some kind of intervention. And so as I was preparing for what I wanted to share with you here today, that came to my mind. And I thought, you know what? Digital illiteracy is very similar, like not being able to read and write in today's world. Like if you don't understand, and you don't have to be an expert, right? I'm not talking about being a tech expert, but if you don't have an understanding of the value that technology can bring to your organization, and perhaps what might be standing in your way, you're really almost like stuck. You're frustrated. You're having to depend on other people to make decisions for you. And that can really lead to feelings of isolation and confusion and not really knowing where to go. And so today, I want to be able to give you some insight into the, I'm not going to say that maybe the mind of the lawyer, because I'm not a lawyer. I'm probably the closest thing to a lawyer, but not being a lawyer. But I want to give you a perspective that hopefully can help you in your cause, because I do really believe that you are all about a cause. The support that you're giving can really make a huge difference, not only in the life of the lawyer, but in the practice of law and the legal industry as a whole. So let's start first by laying some groundwork. This is a definition that I believe is true because I came up with it. I wanted to kind of set this as kind of the groundwork so that we're all talking a similar language. Digital literacy to me means, in a modern law firm, means using digital tools effectively, aligned with the firm's business needs, client expectations, and processes to support growth. So I'm going to use digital literacy and digital maturity as synonymous so that you don't get confused. Digital literacy is a spectrum. And along that spectrum, everyone is at a different stage in their journey. But a modern law firm is one that has been able to not only know how to use the technology, but they've also learned how to apply it so that it can exceed client expectations, improve firm performance, and ultimately be able to help them grow. I often will say that digital literacy is more than just a skill set. It's a mindset. It's changing the way we view technology and how we apply technology in our lives and in our business. It really becomes a game changer because we can see more clearly. We're no longer that little boy who's frustrated and alone and feels like, the world is against him. We can really help change how technology can impact the legal professional. So today I have a few things I'm going to run through. Hopefully there will be time to get through everything. If not, that's okay. But I want to talk to you mostly about why digital literacy is important. What are the conditions surrounding us here today? And how we can actually empower the lawyer, the legal professional. And so to start, I want to start with a story. And this is a story about a lawyer. And she's a client of mine. She's not just a lawyer, she's a businesswoman, she's a mother, she's a wife, she's a community volunteer, and she is really ambitious to make a difference in her community. She has acquired a practice, she's starting to grow that practice, and these are some of the reasons why digital literacy is so important to her. She wants to be able to spend time with her kids. They are in hockey, and they got practice, and they got hockey games, and she wants to be there with them. Having a digital mindset allows her to see things where she can figure out how to work remotely and be able to still deal with her clients. A lot of her clients are like the salt of the earth. She's in a rural community, so she's working with like farmers and people who like don't really understand tech, but she feels it's an obligation to her to try and be with them and help them and support them. And so this is really important to her, as it is for many lawyers. She wants to make sure that things are accurate and efficient, that there's no waste, that she can be predictable in the work that she's doing and provide the tools that her staff really need in order for them to find fulfillment in the work that they're doing. It's also very important to her that she frees up her time so she can pursue other passions. We also talk a lot about in terms of time management and a lot of the manual work that goes into the day and life of a lawyer. As those things start to become more streamlined by the use of technology, she can spend more time in doing the things that she loves. Statistically, lawyers spend about 3 to 4 hours a day on administrative work. And so that really takes them away from really improving their craft. And so that's another reason why she felt it was so important to start to use technology, is so that she could actually invest more in her time to become a better lawyer. And like I said, she had acquired a business who had been supporting industries for like 40 some odd years. And now she wants to continue that for the next 40 years. Digital literacy is allowing her to be able to gain the competitive advantage and the actual structure within her organization so that she can plan for the future. Many of you have been very helpful as a law society, providing instructions on cybersecurity and some of the things that people need to be aware of. And this is equally as important to her, protecting her data and protecting her clients. So what is kind of happening in her life is that she is really wanting to be better, to do more, and to have an impact. And so when I talk about a cause, and when I talk about the work that each and every one of you are doing, helping law firms become more digitally mature and increasing their literacy is really a revelatory experience in a lot of respects, because digital literacy can truly bring to light things that are often in the dark. It's opening up possibilities, making things that seemingly are impossible possible. And all of you are part of that. So what are the conditions that we are experiencing in today's market? And I'm sure you all follow the trends and reports and everything that are happening in the legal tech world. So I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I do want to cover a few things that I think are very impactful, and what I believe is the reason why we have a lot of the pressure or need to elevate digital literacy among lawyers. First off is that we're talking about a $25 billion industry, the legal tech market, and it's growing exponentially. It's actually exploding. There is so much tech and options out there that it's overwhelming for most lawyers. It is a business that is driven by managing data, files, documents, right? That's the legal profession's currency in my mind. And so when you throw AI into the mix to help streamline research and summarizations and generating documents, now you just put like fuel on the fire for what lawyers can actually do. So without some insights into what this means to them, they could miss out on huge opportunities. 68% of lawyers say that generative AI is going to be totally a game changer for the industry. How many of you believe that? Okay, no pressure. You don't have to put your hand up. There's a lot of good that can come from generative AI. The other thing that's creating a little bit more of a need for digital literacy is that there's lots of outsourcing of legal services, either alternative legal service providers or different specific legal processes that law firms are now outsourcing because they have realized that some of the low marginal work can be done quicker, faster, and cheaper by taking it and giving it to outsourced providers who already have systems and processes and everything that's streamlining that whole experience. So what does that mean? That means that the legal professional has to increase their digital intelligence in order for them to integrate with some of these services, in order for them to take advantage of this huge opportunity. So those are some of the conditions, right? The other thing too is legal or technology in and of itself is not just impacting the legal industry, it's impacting all industries across the board. And so we have a need for the legal professional to start maintaining a certain level of digital awareness or digital literacy so that they can meet the growing demands of clients. More clients can and are leaving their current lawyer to go to another law firm because they just do things better. That transition of moving from one law firm to another is a lot easier now than it ever was before. The modern workplace, 80% of law firms right now today have some type of option for hybrid work. That's probably due to the thanks of the global pandemic that forced lawyers to start to integrate certain technologies into their practice. And so when you start to see how people are wanting to work and the flexibility and agility that being able to work anywhere on any device at any time offers lawyers, we need to help them. We need to be able to provide them with the education and the awareness in order for them to take advantage of those opportunities. Blockchain is interesting because it actually is providing more opportunities for lawyers to get into more national, international, and global opportunities. With high value contracts and legal documents that can now be secured and transactions secured across borders with blockchain, this is a huge opportunity for lawyers to really start to get into more of that more lucrative contracts and national and international deals. Cybersecurity strategies. Now, a lot of law firms are using cyber tools to protect their environment, but only 35% of lawyers actually have any kind of strategy at all. And so we have still a lot of work to do in this area. So the only thing, this is the old adage, right? The only thing that's constant is change. This is happening again and again and again. We have so much change that's happening that that's the only thing that's the same always. Let me share a story with you. About 10 years, probably 12 years ago, I was working for a law firm, a large firm. And at that time, there was a lot of struggle that firms were experiencing about cloud computing and moving their data into the cloud. And what does that mean? And what impact does that have on our business? Well, I was fortunate enough to work with an organization that was forward thinking. They knew that there was a great advantage of moving their information to the cloud. And so we started down that pathway. And it was tough. It was challenging. Digital literacy by no means is an easy thing. We have a lot of roadblocks that can stand in our way and prevent us from helping our lawyers increase in their digital intelligence. But because they were open-minded and because we put together a plan, we moved their documents online, we moved their email online, we moved their accounting programs online. We basically did all that we could to get them online, provided all with laptops, and this was all driven behind a vision that they had. And then fast forward 10 years, 2020 comes around, pandemic. They literally picked up their laptops, went home, and continued to work. I was meeting and having a conversation with the CEO probably about, I don't know, 6 months ago, and we were reminiscing about the day when we were fighting people and the challenge of all this change. And he actually teared up. And it was because when the pandemic hit and they saw all of the struggling law firms and all those that were scrambling, and they literally picked up their laptops and went home and continued to work. Like to him, that was one of his greatest accomplishments, to be able to do that for the firm and to have that. So these things are possible, very, very possible. Now, how familiar are you with some of the challenges that are facing a law firm here today? I imagine that the few things I'll share with you, you're probably nodding your head, but in doing so, I don't want to paint like this broad stroke over all the firms, because there's a lot out there that are really game changers and are doing some very interesting things. But I want you to be aware, at least in my view, what are some of the roadblocks that can stand in the way of firms not moving ahead and starting to incorporate more learning and improving their digital literacy. So generational divide, we're seeing that, right? A lot of people are coming into their season, they're seasoned lawyers. They see the horizon, right? The end is close at hand. And then there's young associates that are, very, very excited. The world is their oyster, and they want, and there's this divide, and it can create some tension around what it is to be digitally advanced or digitally mature. And so there's some conflict there, which gets in the way. Who would agree with this statement? Most lawyers, I'll say most, are very much risk adverse. Like, think about what a lawyer does day in and day out, right? They manage risk. Risk for them, risk for their firm, risk for their clients. So what we have to do as educators is we have to connect digital literacy or technology with business outcome and business value. If we don't do that, they're not going to budge, right? What's the evidence? Yeah, show them the evidence, right? And so this is where we can really make a difference just through creating more awareness. This is changing, but for the most part, those that are actually practicing law right now came into the business without any real formal tech training. So there's a lot of catch up, right? They're trying to catch up in understanding tech and what that means. There's plenty of resources online. Like if a lawyer wants to learn about technology, just start going on Google, you can find. But I don't find that there's a lot that is catered to lawyers learning. And so that limited tech training programs really hinder their ability to become more digitally literate. Law firms, for the most part, other than maybe your national firms that have in-house trainers and additional resources, but for your smaller firms, they're really reliant on you. They really have no added resources, and so they need help to offer more training. I see this all the time. Lawyer shows up to work, new hire, sit down. 2 days, they say, over 2 days, they give them a bit of an orientation. This is the software, and then she's left to herself. to figure it out. And you just can't have that, right? You need to have a lot more support. The billable hour. I don't know what, I think there's on the schedule, you guys are trying to figure out like what brings people out and how can we get better attendance and stuff like that. Like the billable hour, I think is a real deterrent, right? Because they're constantly weighing, okay, so do I take 5 hours and do this course? Or do I lose 5 hours of billable time? And I got the budget that I've got to maintain. And so this just mindset of billable hour rather than value-based billing, which that's a conversation for another day. I think is a deterrent, right? They just, it's hard to pull themselves away. If you're not getting technology into the hand of the lawyer, then you're really preventing their learning. They need to have it in hand. And so I think just trying to incorporate or help them to incorporate, it doesn't have to be like this huge, massive, changeover of technology, but even in departments or something, but they need to get it in their hands. This might be something that might be a touchy point with some of you. I don't know, but whether there's ethic responsibilities that lawyers have, whether it's regulatory requirements that they have to meet, whether it's checklists they have to follow, like that, those are barriers. Those are barriers to progress. They're barriers to innovation. They're barriers to try new things. But I don't know all the rules, and I don't know all the I know that Alberta has like a sandbox, right? And we can help lawyers try new software without penalizing them because it's in a controlled environment and we understand. Like things like that I think are really cool. But just remember, like we had concerns back when cloud computing was a big question and everyone was all worried and where's your data? Is it in Canada? Is it in the US? Like, do we hear conversations like that now? I don't hear it at all. It's like online, let's go. And so
But the law societies have regulated that now.
yes,
There's not a lot of discussion around that unless you don't know what you're doing.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So concerns there. I've already talked about this. Lots of overwhelming choices. IT is not regulated. So if you have a computer and a van, you can provide IT support, right? And which means that one of the things that can really be preventing lawyers from becoming more digitally adept is that they just have poor advice. They're just going to the wrong sources. And the final thing is that they lack a plan. Digital literacy is a choice. Digital literacy is in complete control of the lawyer. But generally, they don't have a plan. They don't know where to start. And because of that, they then aren't taking the steps forward that they need to be more digitally literate. Here's another great example. Another small firm that I worked with and I'm actually still working with, they have a great generational divide. They have lawyers that are not wanting to invest anything more because they're not going to actually realize their investment. They're going to be long gone before they actually realize their investment. And they have young associates that want to make change and want to start putting new things in place. And so we're working with them to devise a plan where both parties win, where we can segregate certain aspects of their practice so that they can advance the ability to meet client expectations as well as firm performance, and try to do that in a way where the seasoned lawyers can still operate the way that they've always been able to. But there's ways around this, and I'll show you that here coming up. So here's some practical solutions. Again, these are just thoughts that I have. So if you feel like I'm completely out of sorts, that's fine. I'm just here to share, and hopefully there can be some discussion from this. First off, I'd love to see more digital literacy programming and technology programming in our continued legal education. This is where most traditionally what I've seen is I see a lot of lawyers who have gone and prepared a lot of information and have done a lot of research on different areas of tech and technology, and then they present it to their peers. If I wanted legal advice, I wouldn't go to a technology expert. I just wouldn't. And so even though they have done the research and they understand, because they're talented in that area, they're very, very capable. Like, we're not talking about people who are not educated. They understand this stuff. They do well. But I feel like we might be doing a disservice by not including more tech experts, more trusted advisors in our education. Peer learning and mentorship, I see this often. I think the CBA has somewhere like 30 plus subsections. They all really focus on substantive law. I'd love to see something where we have a tech expert and we can bring lawyers and people together and they can share their own experiences, because let's face it, it happens already. You have two lawyers, they're in a bar. One lawyer says to the other lawyer, hey, I've got this wonderful new tech. Love to be able to, and it's changed my practice. I can do things faster, better, and so on. And then the other lawyer says, oh, really? What are you using? Oh, it's this software. You should go and you should get it. It's fantastic, right? And I feel like there's those conversations that are happening, but they're just not in a forum. They're not in an environment where we can validate and verify. And so this would be a great opportunity for ongoing learning. The other thing is, I love to empower people. When we talk about empowering the lawyer, I really do believe it's about giving them the resources and allowing them to bring it into their own building, their own practice. And then you can foster a culture of learning so people aren't afraid to challenge the status quo or to bring new ideas, which is not across the board entirely. There's a lot of hesitation in some respects, but fostering more of a culture of learning. Many of you have gone out and you sent out like assessments, and I think these are great. And I would encourage this because, like I said, not many people understand exactly where they are. And if you don't know where you are, it's hard to know where you want to go. So any type of assessments to give people, lawyers, an opportunity to say, where do you stand in your digital maturity? Where are you in your ability to understand technology and its impact on your business? And then, here's a plan that you can move towards to the future. But that needs to be paired with an actual training path. So think of it this way. I love the idea of pathways, and a lot of universities are doing this now, where they have, there's a particular learning path, and it might extend over several weeks or months, but it's all broken down into like 15-minute or 30-minute like videos or interactive sessions and whatnot. So it's like an on-demand. This is because lawyers are picky and they have limited time. This, I think, would be an awesome if you had like a document management pathway, or you had an AI pathway, or you had a practice management pathway, or you had, whatever the case might be, blockchain, for people who can understand where they are, pick the path, consume it on demand. I think it would do wonders to increase our literacy amongst our friends. How are you doing for time? I have
got about 10 or so minutes.
Okay, perfect. And hopefully I'm not going too fast, but I like to get into this, which is maybe I'm diverting a little bit from what I was asked to speak on or share with you. But digital literacy, we understand why it's important. Think of that one lawyer I was just saying, like it's life-changing. That's, it's very clear to understand why. What is standing in our way and what are the conditions around us? Life is changing, tech and business constantly changing, so there's pressure against us. We have challenges in our firm, we have challenges in our own head, but all of it can be overcome. And I have seen in my years several processes that I want to share with you here today to give you more of the how this can actually be done. First thing is people need, and lawyers need to understand why they got into practicing law to begin with. Like, what is it that's really driving them? Because that's what's going to be the motivating factor for them to want to learn. Like, education has to empower us to achieve our goals. why learn something if it's not going to help you move further or closer to achieving what you want? So by having the end in mind allows them to really anticipate where technology can lead them. So I want to introduce you to a model called the digital maturity model. And like I said, digital maturity, digital literacy, we can use those interchangeably. But in essence, a law firm can move from being a developing ad hoc firm to a thriving firm as the principles within this model and a framework that I'm going to show you here shortly, as they apply these things, it will help them to transform technology into business value. And it will help them to increase their digital awareness and intelligence. What I normally do is I ask lawyers, where are you today? This goes back to having some form of an understanding of their level of digital literacy. So when we talk about digital literacy as being on a spectrum, we want to be able to identify where they are in their level of maturity and digital awareness. Because if they're a developing firm, they're kind of ad hoc, everything's in their head, they're kind of just going, day to day, is very different than a thriving firm that is now actually using data and data analytics to be able to understand the inner operations of their firm so that they can make informed decisions to be more innovative. Like there's a huge gap there. And so by understanding where you are, you then have to make sure they understand, okay, where is your need? Where do you want to go? What does the future look like for you? So that we can help them get there. And there's two ways that we can do that. And the ways that we can help them to get to where they want to go is through understanding, I'm not sure why it's not showing up, but the vertical line is customer experience, and the horizontal line is firm performance. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not showing up. But anyway, whenever I talk to a lawyer and I say, okay, what is it that your customers expect? What is it that they want? What does that experience look like? Because if you're trying to figure out how to get to where you want to go, just ask your clients. They'll tell you. If you want to understand how to make things better within your firm or your practice, talk to your staff. They'll tell you. They know where the gaps are and where the misalignments are. And so by understanding where they are, where they want to go, and then they focus on client experience and firm performance, two things are going to happen. As client experience increases, so will revenue. As firm productivity increases, costs will go down. And what happens to an organization when revenues are up and costs are down? They start to thrive. They start to grow. They start to actually gain some traction. These are the things that we need to teach them to help them understand why it's important to have digital literacy. We need to connect it to the bottom line. There's nothing that's going to motivate a lawyer faster than if you can show them purpose, passion, and profits. If you can show them those three things, they're going to move heaven and earth to get there, as would we all, right? So how is this to be done? There's three factors that I believe are transformational to any business, but in this area of law, we're gonna focus on these three. When I talk about people, I'm talking about understanding the needs of all those that a lawyer is impacting. So their staff, the partners, and their clients primarily. If you can understand their needs, because they vary from individual to individual, but if you can understand their needs, then you're going to be able to put yourself in a position to create an outcome that will further your business, because productivity will increase, client experience will be improved if you understand the needs of the people. So when you go to introduce a new technology, because you understand and you're talking to your people, buy-in is easy. They understand, they've made the connection in their head that this new technology is going to make my life better. It also drives their desire to learn. If you want to see increased attendance in your courses, get lawyers to start thinking about the needs of their people and the impact that's going to make, or that technology is going to make. You'll drive participation. People will want to learn. When you move from people to process, now what you're doing is you're simply identifying how you are going to be able to meet the needs of your people. How are you going to be able to take what you have and make it better? So it could very well be client services. Maybe case and matter management needs to be flushed out. Maybe there's something with risk and compliance, or maybe operationally you've got gaps. And as you identify the processes and you connect them with the people's needs, now you have the knowledge and awareness to make more informed decisions. Think of it this way. To be able to transform technology into business value, you have to be able to understand the gaps in the business and the need that it's fulfilling. So that's the process and people. Or in order for you to not waste time, energy, and effort by introducing something that ends up not working for you in the end, you have to follow this process. It's one that will allow you to find the right fit technology, what's going to actually work for the firm. So when we talk about AI, how many people know of a law firm that has an AI committee? Okay, one. It seems like that's the trend. It's like AI, new technology. Let's form a committee. We form a committee and we say, okay, committee, go out there and figure out AI. They go out there and they try to figure out AI. And this is the fallacy, is because if you do this in the reverse order, you never get what you want. You just get the new piece of software that everyone has now figured out a different workaround to meet their process, and then the needs are never met. And so whether it's AI, whether it's practice management, whether it's an accounting software or time and billing or whatever, because you've already understand people and process, you're going to find the right fit technology. New technology adoption is going to be more widely accepted within the firm because people are understanding this, and it will be more tailored to their specific needs. People, process, and technology, when those become in alignment, you actually start to see an increase in digital maturity. You start to see an increase in digital intelligence and literacy. And you start to see time and space for people to be more innovative and start to have more strategic conversations and ultimately grow. There was an unexpected surprise. I'll just finish with this story and kind of conclude here. We were working with a law firm and we went through this whole process. And it was amazing that when we first started, they were frustrated with technology. They didn't find that there was clarity. They felt the support was misdirected, and all these things. And it kind of felt like it was everyone else is messing up and everyone else is doing awful. And as we went through this whole process, we actually started to realize that there are people who were actually very happy. Management wasn't happy. They weren't clear on their expectations. There was no accountability. There was no plan. IT was left to their own. Like all these things started to come. They weren't actually spending enough. They were spending a lot less than what they should be spending on. And all these things started to formulate where they were surprised, honestly shocked. But what that did is it created an opportunity for them to make it right. And this is the revelation that comes, I believe, as we start to elevate and raise up digital literacy amongst lawyers. So I do believe that the future is bright. I really do. I've had many conversations where I've left after spoken to a law firm or a lawyer, just banging my head like, they just don't see it. Just don't see it. But more and more people are open to having technology conversations. That's one of the reasons why I started Modern Lawyer, a webinar series. It's now going into BC to help educate and elevate the awareness of digital maturity amongst law firms, because I'm starting to see that people actually want to have the conversation. Law schools now are starting to incorporate more tech. So you're gonna get younger lawyers coming in with even more of a desire to consume and understand and thrive. Firms are investing 3 times as what they used to in technology. So what does that mean? Lots of investment into tech. I don't know what percentage of that is into their people though. Right? The people still might be left to themselves. The fact that law firms and lawyers are adapting new revenue models means that they're listening to their people and they're listening to their clients. This is all about an attitude shift where they're no longer wanting to be following maybe traditional ways, and they're looking for new ways of improving. This is all reasons why I believe you are all in a great spot to have an awesome influence in the legal profession. Tech is becoming more specialized, which means we can do better work with less software. We don't have to use a bunch of this bloated software that is offering hundreds of different features. They can become very narrow, which means that they can go into niche markets, which means that people that need specialty services can now get them. And we can expand the access to justice. I'm very grateful that I've had this chance to share some of my insights with all of you. Hopefully there was one thing that you could at least take away from what I've shared. I do believe that you are part of a great cause. And like I said, the work that you can do to elevate digital literacy amongst law professionals or legal professionals will go a long way. Just in closing, this is a quote that I really like. The ability to envision and drive change is just as important as the ability to work with technology. If you don't have both, you can't succeed in this world. Thank you.